Hey y'all, it's Kate from the Apothecary and welcome back to my channel. I'm back with another weekly reading update. Today is March 8th, the first week of March. I have finished a couple books. I'm in the middle of a bunch and I've got some more lined up. So let's start with the books that I have finished. First, I finished Witchcraft for the Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. This book was so good. I listened to the audiobook version of this. They had three main narrators. Sounded like one for the main story, one for the instructional text, and if you've read this book, you know what I mean, and one for the epilogue, which takes place in the future. It was done so well. I was laughing, I was crying, I was on the edge of my seat. The way that Grady Hendrix, an adult male, wrote these girls who are teenagers and pregnant was unbelievable. You reading this book, you would never have been able to guess that a man wrote this book. It was so good. He wrote these characters with such care and empathy and heart. I loved them all. I loved everything about this book, really. And as of right now, on March 8th, this is in my top 5 books I've read all year. It's that good. Y'all need to go and read it. I loved it so much. And I can't wait to add more Grady Hendrix to my reading list. I know that this book is different than most of his other books, but just the way that he handled this book makes me want to give his other books a try, just to give him that support, even if they're very different and I don't get along with them. I just want to give him that support because he did so well in this book. The other book that I have finished is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. This book was so much fun. I had no idea that I would love this book as much as I did. Mordecai is the best guide ever. Of course, Princess Donut rules the world, and Carl gave me Harry Dresden vibes. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, that's probably because you're reading in the middle of Dresden Files, but when I started Dungeon Crawler Carl, I was in kind of a Dresden break. I hadn't been reading Dresden in a while just because of the way things have lined up, not anything intentional. I love Dresden, and actually we'll be talking about Dresden in just a minute. But just the way that Carl's mannerisms happened, the way that he spoke, he acted, the way that Jeff Hayes, the audiobook narrator, narrated Carl, just everything gave me Harry Dresden vibes in the best way possible. The best way possible. Now, my current reads, speaking of Dresden, include Turncoat by Jim Butcher. This is book 11 in the Dresden Files series, and so far, this is my favorite book in this series. I love how there is so much wrapped up in this book. We get Native American, like, spirit angry creatures. We get the magical island, we get the white court vampires and issue with the brother, and oh, don't forget that a wizard from the court, what is it called? The council is staying and hiding at Dresden's house because the council is after him. So much is happening, but Jim Butcher, in my opinion, deals with everything going on in such a seamless way that it all fits together perfectly. Now, I will likely be finishing that book tonight or maybe tomorrow morning, depending on how much reading I can get in tonight. So I look forward to giving you more of my thoughts on that next week. I'm also reading The Great Bastards by Jonathan French. This book, I am earlier in the book than Dresden. Think I'm nearing maybe the halfway point here. So far, I am loving the world building in this book. There is so much world building in this book 1. I'm loving it. I can't wait to see where we go next, what we see next, who we meet next, and where the story goes. I'm still trying to get a handle on all of the different characters. most of our characters are half orcs, and so they have very different mannerisms than I'm used to reading human characters. But I love it, and I am really enjoying reading this. The third book that I'm reading is a random ebook that I started because I needed another ebook when I finished Dungeon Crawler Carl, and Leslie has told me to hold off on Credible Threats until I finish Dresden because they're so similar that I want to read them separate. But I needed another ebook to start because it feels weird not having an ebook going. So I did my usual go to the bottom of my Kindle owned list, the oldest book that I have on there that has not been read yet. That gave me Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahar. This is a YA fantasy with witches and witch hunts and witch hunters. And I am trying to give it its fair shot. So far it hasn't convinced me that I need to read this through fully, but I am going to continue reading for a little bit, at the very least until I finish Turncoat, and then I can start in Incredible Threats and see if it gets better from here, because so far I'm really on the fence with this book, and I want to see if the character development gets better. This is YA, so there's not going to be probably a whole lot. There's romance in it too. I know that at like one point, two of our main characters somehow become a romantic couple, which where I'm at right now, I cannot see how that is happening. So I am interested to get to that moment and see if that changes my point of view. So we'll see how far I get into Serpent and Dove. I've mentioned one of the books that I'll be reading next, but let's talk about all the other books that I'll be reading next. Of course, first up will be Credible Threats by Daniel Meyer. I am so excited for this book. This is an urban fantasy book with a young protagonist that is very Harry Dresden-esque, and I can't wait to read it. That is a patron pick for me, picked by Leslie. I'll also be starting, once I finish The Grey Bastards, I'll be jumping into Curse of the Mistwraith by Jenny Wirtz. This book has been on my TBR so long. It keeps getting moved week by week, but I trust Leslie's judgment. She has read this book, and she told me that this is a book that you want to take slow and really focus on and not read too much other fantasy along with it. So I'm going to start that once I finish The Grey Bastards. And my hope, at least by the end of this month, and I know we're just in the beginning, but I'm saying this because I know what the rest of my month is going to look like. My hope is not only to get all the other picks that I'm waiting from the library and whatnot done, but The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, because that would, if I can finish Turncoat, The Grey Bastards, Curse of the Mistwraith, and Name of the Wind by the end of March, I will have a full card filled for the Reddit fantasy bingo. So I'm really hoping to be able to get into that, but I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself because I don't need that extra stress, especially when it comes to reading. But that's my plan so far, so we'll see where it goes. Let me know in the comments below, what was your favorite reading moment from this past week? And what are you looking forward to reading the most in this next week? As always, keep reading, and I love you all to the moon and back. Bye.